These are 15 Spanish phrases you will not understand. Número 1, ser pan comido. Ser pan comido literally translates into English as to be bread eaten. However, the English translation of this would be to be a piece of cake. For example, el examen fue pan comido. The exam was a piece of cake. It was easy. Número 2, meter la pata. Meter la pata literally means to put the paw in, but it really just means to mess up or to make a mistake. For example, metí la pata cuando dije eso frente a mi jefe. I made a mistake when I said that thing in front of my boss. Número 3, one of my all-time favorites, ni modo. Ni modo literally translates to not way. However, ni modo just means oh well, or too bad, or it is what it is. Ni modo. For example, perdí mi vuelo. Ni modo. Tomaré el siguiente. Número 4, me late. Me late literally means it beats to me. Latir is to beat, like your heartbeat. Un latido would be a beat, like a heartbeat. But me late just means that you like something or it sounds good to you. So for example, ¿vamos al cine? Sí, me late. Do you want to go to the movie theater? Yeah, I'm down. Or that sounds good. Me late. You could also say, for example, me late esa canción. I like that song. Me late esa canción. Número 5, qué hueva. Que hueva literally translates to what an egg, but it just means what a drag, or you could also think of this as so lazy. I love using this phrase, and I probably use it more than I should, but for example, tenemos que limpiar todo eso. Que hueva. Oh, what a drag. I really don't want to do that. Que hueva. Número 6, ponte trucha. Literally, ponte trucha means put yourself a trout, because that just makes so much sense. But really, ponte trucha just means be alert or stay alive. Be alert. So for example, ponte trucha. Hay muchos ladrones aquí. So be on alert. There are a bunch of thieves here. Número 7, se me fue el avión. Se me fue el avión. Se me fue el avión means literally the plane left me, but it just means that you zoned out. So, for example, perdón, se me fue el avión. ¿Qué dijiste? So, sorry, I totally zoned out. What did you just say? Se me fue el avión. You could also say, se me fue el tren. So now you're going from the plane to the train. Se me fue el tren is basically just saying, oh, I lost my train of thought. Wait, what was I saying? Se me fue el tren. I lost my train of thought. Número 8, me cayó gordo. Literally, this would translate to he fell fat to me, but it just means that you didn't like someone. Me cayó gordo. You can also just say me cae gordo, which would be the present tense of this. But in the past tense, for example, we could say something like ese tipo me cayó gordo desde el principio. I didn't like that guy from the start. So if you don't like someone, don't say no me gusta. You could say that, but it kind of sounds maybe a bit more romantic. No me gusta Raquel. I don't like Raquel. That could be romantic. I suppose it could also be that you don't really get along with someone, but it's better to say something like me cae gordo. I don't like that person. Me cae mal. Me cae gordo. Número 9, me da mala espina. Literally, me da mala espina would translate to it gives me a bad spine or a good thorn. Espina can also be thorn, but it just means, I don't know, this place is giving me the heebie-jeebies. I don't know, I'm not liking this. Essentially, it's when you have a bad feeling about something. So for example, no sé por qué, pero ese lugar, la verdad, me da mala espina. I don't know why, but that place gives me a bad feeling. I don't know. Something about it, I don't like it. Me da mala espina. You can kind of think of this as a shiver down your spine. I don't know. There's just something weird. Número 10, dar lata. Dar lata literally means to give can, but it just means when someone annoys you. Te da lata. So for example, mi hermanito no deja de dar lata todo el día. My little brother doesn't stop annoying us all day. Siempre está dando lata. He's always bugging us. I remember when I learned this phrase because there was a Mexican man that I had met close to where I lived, and he was telling me how he has a new granddaughter, and she would always give lata, daba lata. And I thought, oh, that must be a good thing. She's like a little baby, real nice. No, what he was really trying to say is that she was annoying. Daba lata. Número 11, me importa un pepino. Me importa un pepino literally translates to, it matters to me a cucumber. Or in English, I couldn't care less. For example, me da igual. Me importa un pepino lo que piense. I don't care. I couldn't care less what he thinks. Me importa un pepino. Número 12, hacer la vista gorda. Hacer la vista gorda literally means to make a fat view. But in English, we would think of this as to turn a blind eye or to ignore something. For example, el jefe hizo la vista gorda con ese error. The boss turned a blind eye to that mistake. Número 13, vete al grano. Literally, this translates to go to the grain. Whereas in English, this just means get to the point. Vete al grano. No tengo todo el día. Get to the point. I don't have all day. A funny thing that my Mexican girlfriend will say to me sometimes is, llégale. Llégale, ya, dime, ¿qué quieres decir? Llégale, vete al grano. Basically mean like, llégale, come on, get to the point, hurry up, let's go, come on. Vete al grano or llégale. Número 14, no tener pelos en la lengua. No tener pelos en la lengua literally translates to not have hairs on the tongue, but it just means when you speak your mind or when you don't have a filter. For example, ella no tiene pelos en la lengua. Siempre dice la verdad. So she doesn't have any hairs on her tongue or she speaks her mind. She has no filter. She always tells the truth. And finally, número 15, buscarle tres pies al gato. Literally, this translates to look for 3 feet on the cat. But what this means is to overcomplicate things. So, for example, no le busques 3 pies al gato. La respuesta es simple. No need to overcomplicate things. The answer is simple. Well, there you have it. I hope you've learned something new. Leave a comment down below letting us know how many of these you knew. And if you'd like to learn more Spanish from me, click the link in the video description to check out our Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy. Our goal is to help you have a 10-minute conversation in Spanish in 90 days without feeling unconfident. Check it out by clicking the link in the video description or going to SpanishWithNate.com. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.